Probably don't think about it, but when you buy a notebook, well, you probably don't think about it when you buy a notebook, but replacing the hard drive, it's gotten a lot easier as notebooks have gotten newer. Basically, we're going to show you a bunch of ways, though, to replace your notebook hard drive and talk about how you get your data from your old notebook hard drive to your new one.
Cool.
You're holding like a whopping 512 megabyte hard drive.
Oh, my gosh.
That looks like it's about a 14 millimeter drive, 15 millimeter drive.
They're smaller than this now.
They're a lot smaller than this now. Actually, if you take a look, like back in the day, this is an IBM, you had to take 9 screws out of the bottom of the case.
That's
right?
Nuts.
And then you would lift
I guess
off
they just
the plastic
nobody
cover.
Would ever want to do this.
Exactly. And actually, you know, and you look at this, that you've got down here, and you had 2 more screws down here. And once we got that out of there, don't yank, right? Because if you yank, and I should say never ever, until you know what you're pulling, never yank on anything inside of a notebook, because most of your notebooks are connected by these little tiny ribbon cables.
Yeah, that's how I live my life.
And you know, it's good
yank
to know
anything until you know what you're pulling.
You know, that's why you haven't blown yourself up with a hand grenade. But one of the things you want to watch out, any kind of ribbon cable you want to be really careful with on the inside of the system. But you look at something here, right? A lot of the older hard drives are like this. They're like 12 millimeter hard drives. Almost all the new notebook hard drives sold today are 9.5 millimeter hard drives. So if you take a look at that, that's actually the medium size.
So that's a normal one, or are they even smaller?
This is actually,
now?
they're even smaller now.
Wow.
And one thing you want to watch out, if you've got an older notebook and you replace it, you need to get a spacer for the top of this, because if you don't on some notebooks, it will actually rattle around inside of there. But if you take a look, we actually have a newer HP notebook here. I'm going to throw this off to the side.
You know, I opened my iBook, which was late model, and there was no way I was going to be able to get it back together again after taking out the hard drive.
Well, you got to be careful, right?
You have to be really careful.
You know, in this case, we've got a...
These are easier.
Yeah, most of the PC, exactly. Look, there's a little, either a door on the side or a hatch like this. You'll flip it over.
Oh, look at that.
And basically, you'll have the notebook will be inside of its own little tiny carrier case, right? And usually, there's, you know, we've got a screw over here.
Did you remove a connector, or is that just how it came out?
Basically, most of them, you undo one screw, the carrier slides out, and then to get the note,
it's got a snap-in connector.
Exactly, and then you might have to do 1 or 2 screws on the side of this. Well, it's people are starting to realize, yeah, and notebook hard drives in general, right? They're growing at an incredibly rapid pace, and a lot of notebooks that are only a couple of years old are still running fine, have like a 4 gigabyte hard drive.
Right.
You know, and if you start carrying on MP3s, that fills in really, really quickly. So one of the things you want to watch about those is when you're ordering a new notebook hard drive, there's a couple things you got to worry about. One is that thickness, right? If it's too thin, something like this, you basically want to make sure it's going to fit.
Get the same size as the existing one is.
And if it doesn't have,
can you get the older? You probably can't get the 14 millimeters.
No, you can still get. There's really it was nosed around actually. There's basically Toshiba and Hitachi. Hitachi took over IBM's TravelStar business. They did a sort of a joint venture, and then Toshiba, I hate it when I miss that. There's the last one. There's always, you know, on all the IBMs I have, there's like 2 screws. This one, there's like 35. The Hitachi and IBM combined their hard drive business, so they have all the old TravelStar notebooks, and Toshiba is the other company that does most of the portable drives.
So most portable drives are Toshiba, Hitachi, or IBM?
Yeah, Fuji, and actually it's now Fuji, Hitachi, and Toshiba. But if you take a look at this, at the end of this, right, there's a little adapter there. And what's going to happen is almost always, if you slide this off, and I can hear Prager wincing in the control room.
Is this his computer?
I'm pretty sure this is his computer.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dave.
So props to Prager. So you want to be careful, right? And that's the way, it looks like a regular hard drive, except along with your data pins in there, I don't know if you can see that, you also run your power through this.
Right.
So basically, you know, you want to save the adapter. The adapter is only going to go on and off one way, so don't worry too much about that. Now, one last thing you think about is figure out the maximum capacity your hard drive can handle. Don't buy an 80 gigabyte hard drive if your motherboard's only going to see 20 gigabytes.
How do you know that?
Well, that you're going to have to do a little research on.
Look at the manual?
Yeah, well, look at the manual or call the manufacturer. The thing you want to do, though, is before you start yanking all the drives out, you want to back up your information.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than yanking a hard drive and going,
whoops.
Yeah, the Henderson report.
It's on there.
It's on here. Jimmy, get that out of the Legos bag. There's a couple of ways you can do it. For like the last 10 years, right, since 1992, I've been using external hard drives. First, SCSI external hard drives, and then later on USB external hard drives. FireWire is great now because they're really fast. And the nice thing about that, as I plug this into my system, I keep all my data generally on a separate data partition. Whenever I move to a new hard drive or a new notebook, I basically just grab the old one, I drag all the information off to the old hard drive, and upgrade to the new one. Now, if you want to get fancy, you can start using stuff like PC Relocator. I highly recommend, though, you reinstall the operating system in all your applications.
It's nice to start fresh.
Yeah, it sounds like a great idea. It saves your settings, but sometimes, you know, things just don't behave when you try to transfer them over this way. And one last thing to copy the hard drive information, the other way you can do it is instead of using an external hard drive, you can actually use a 2.5-inch hard drive adapter.
Oh, so you can just put it in your
right
PC,
there.
your
Put it in your PC to copy information over. We've got some links to some software, and we actually should hold up one one last thing. It's really become common lately.
I love these.
Apricorn, actually. They give you an external USB, and they'll bundle it with a drive and some software, and you can actually use their software to back your information off to the old hard drive, basically off the old hard drive, write it onto the new hard drive, and then transfer it over. Some people have had mixed results with the software. I haven't used it. Most people know they're like, a bunch of stuff works, some of the stuff doesn't work, but we love the idea.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'd even be honest with you, I'm still, 5 years from now, I'm still going to be copying it off to an external hard drive and reinstalling.
I just buy a new laptop.
Well, you do that every 6 months.
That's right.
To a year. We got details on all the notebook hard drive upgrades.
I'm lazy.
We talked about the screensavers.com. You're driving America's economy.
I am, that's right. Keep America employed.